for you. Let me read one of these poems from in here, from Textures of Pregnancy. This is a short little piece I wrote, and then I'll read, I'll just, in between, I'll read a couple haikus. This is called Belly. I orbit you, my eyes like moons round Venus, watching belly bulging with belly button percolating, belly lotion by these hands, blue belly, purple belly, bullet-shaped belly, busting through your shirt as silence ripples past us, water breaks, frog legs, push, push, birth fog, dilate woman, dilate heat, belly push, belly move, belly grunt, beneath your hips, pubic triangles clang, opening womb, dilating fractions of God, unveiling delicate sculpture of baby's first cry. That's Ashe's first cry there.
Okay.
I'll let you marinate on that. Here's two haiku just for exhale.
Is it one about Sakani?
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh.
Well, it's about your mom, but it's the birthing.
Poor mom.
Okay, here we go. Moon sliced through window and midnight carved like wood, yet tulips pucker. Paprika brown. Paprika brown, tequila Johnson bamboos, avocado black. Okay.
Oh, that's the haiku.
Yeah, those are two haiku. I'll read a poem and then I'll put in a couple haiku.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were the haikus in about?
Okay, the first one was kind of like a romantic piece for your mom. And I'll read it again.
Aww. How old were you?
Oh, this was like, I guess we're like 2006. We're in Elk Grove.
Ooh, okay.
Moon sliced through window and midnight carved like wood, yet tulips pucker. Then the other one is kind of like I'm just being creative. And the tulips part is it's spelled Tulips, but it's a play on words for like tulips too. Right. Just so you know. And then Paprika brown, I'm just kind of being creative with just the sound of the words and the colors. Paprika brown, tequila Johnson, bamboos, avocado black. So that's kind of like my avant-garde, free poetry.
Yeah.
Stuff there.
So I have a question. So you and mom have been together for over 25 years. What is that been like? And then how's your love evolved over?
Wow, that's a deep question. Like I would say like for the first 10 years that we were together, it was like magnetic. It was lightning and thunder. There was no time to really think about things. It was like we got together, we had a family, and we were just full on in it. Then we were trying to buy a home, and that changed everything, right? Because then, like I was saying earlier about how the relationship can change from the romantic friendship between the partners and the couple, and then moving on to having kids and being father and mother, and then now looking out and trying to build a nest egg for the family, right? And so now that's what the focus is. And so we can say that there's seasons that happen with the relationship, right? And the ebb and flow of life. So those first 10 years was just magnetic, and everything was just happening and moving, and we were up and down the state, and everywhere we went, you went, and you got to see life, you got to see real life, and a working couple trying to keep things together, right? You guys were exposed to all of that, which was beautiful. And then now from 10 to 20 it's so we're trying to get the house, we're trying to hold on to the house, and then the whole housing bubble happened, and then there's that financial crisis, right? It was a crisis for us too, right? We're like, how are we going to do this? And it's so much stress. But then you hold on. So look, there's also a spiritual element to the whole thing, because when stuff gets really hard, you have to go beyond yourself. You have to pray. You know, like they say, only the Lord can make a way out of no way. When I was going through what I was going through with Don Julio, and people were trying to make sure that I would never teach again, you know, forces like that, trying to do things like that. I had to pray on a way to be opened, you know, that the Lord would bless a way. And that's the same thing too. When you don't have any answers, then you, like you said, you know, you go to the Creator, you go to God, you know, you give thanks and praise, and you pray for a way through. So and then you have to be able to talk about things, because there's going to be something that you disagree about, and you got to be able to move. You got to be able to move past that, right? And yeah, Jesus teaches us about forgiveness too. And so with all these different things happening within a couple's relationship and a family, or you did this and you did that, that actually has to be transformed too. It's like, you know what? We need to get past this stage that we're in, turn the page, and move on. And then just love on each other, finding creative ways. You know, that's why it's important to create, right? Because then you also create that romantic relationship with your significant other, and just, you know, doing nice things. Like when your mom and I first got together, it was like I would, you know, have a blanket ready. We would go for walks. I have a blanket ready, and then always had something to offer her to drink, and you know, like juice and food and fruit, you know, and then we would talk, and we would just enjoy life. We would enjoy the sky. We would enjoy the trees. And later we were enjoying you guys running in the park and playing in the water. All of those things. So the relationship evolves, but you can't be in the mindset of like, this is how we were 10 years ago. This is how we are now. And if it's good, then we keep it going. If something's not right, then we got to change something up, right? So he's like, okay, this isn't working for us, so we got to go. Like when Davis wasn't working for us, we went to San Francisco. San Francisco wasn't working for us, boom, we're going to LA. LA is, okay, LA offered what it could, but the schooling wasn't right. Boom, we're going to El Grove. Our kids need one solid place to be. We're going to be in El Grove till you guys graduate from high school. So all of these different things there's, you know, the different relationships, as I said earlier, are happening. And the relationship is evolving. So you have to evolve with the times. You have to evolve with your significant other.
Hey,
all right,
Mom.
look at my beautiful wife right there.
Hi, everybody.
Mom had to pop in.
Okay.
Okay, what advice would you guys give for artists that don't have any support or feel like they don't have any support?
All right, so that's for me to answer, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing they gotta group together, you know, and they need like some type of coalition and create their own group instead of looking for someone else. And then people will come. Right, you get together and you create something. That's like what I did at Carol's Books, right? So I said I found a place, and I was like, okay, and I talked to the owner, and I said, okay, here's where I would like to do my open mic, and then you build and you be consistent, and the people, or whatever it is that you want to come, you be consistent for that dream, and it'll grow. It'll grow like a plant. And other things will emerge. People will come, and then you could take it from there.
So would you say that having no support might be more of a blessing than a curse?
Well, what I'm saying is,
your own thing.
Okay, you got to support yourself, and then you find a place where you could do what you love to do, and the support will grow. You will find the people that will support your creative work.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Mom as his partner, how did she just sometimes be supportive or just let Dad do what he needed to do as an artist?
I can't answer. She has to answer that.
Yeah.
First, you know, the thing about your dad is that he just loves his poetry, part of him. So he's going to do his poetry regardless because it's part of him. It's second nature to him. He does it without thinking. But early on, when we were in college, before we were dating, he had tremendous support because people heard his poems at these open mics or poetry readings, and they were blown away. You know, people were started hearing Vincent's voice and the way that he performed his poetry, the way that he read it, his own sound, and he had support that he didn't ask for. It was just a natural thing. So then when he left and went back home to St. Martin, people were looking for him. People were asking for it because no one was doing what he was doing. And when he did come back, there was this overwhelming support. There was this overwhelming, you know, opportunities for him to read, to perform, what have you. But, you know, when you're coming from abroad back to the States, that's a huge transition. That's a huge, just trying to wrap your head around how much has changed. You know, this is the time when, you know, he came back and there were ATM machines and debit cards and computers and cell phones like there wasn't before. So it was this outpouring of support, but sometimes the artist, you know, has to listen to themselves. So people wanted him to perform, but he was trying to transition back to the States. So it wasn't time for him. He needed a different type of support at that time. And then as time went on, he created his own platforms. He created his own opportunities, and not just for himself, but he brought people with him, you know? So I'd never known him as an artist to go out and just try to do something just for Vince. He was always coming up with a coalition, a group, Z-Rail, Chocolate Chunk Fest, and he was always thinking about the collaborative, thinking about, you know, the first time he came, he said, I want us to go and read poetry and do performance art on the BART. And I was like, what? On the train, what have you? I was like, oh, okay. And so for me, as his wife, and I mean, initially what's difficult for artists, I believe, is that people, you know, there's different types of support. Artists need financial support, but people always expect them to do things for free, right? So they want you to come out and show your art, perform your art. They want a piece of your art, but they don't think about how much time it takes for you to create that art. And they just, but they're not quick to support you financially. So what does that do for the family person, for the mother or the father? And I think for men, there's a huge responsibility in the sense that they're not just trying to provide for their family, but they're trying to provide for their wife and their kids. And there's a certain expectation that's on their shoulders to do that. So your dad and I, although we're liberal, we're also traditionalists and very conservative in certain things. And so when it comes to our kids and our family, he didn't have the luxury to just do his art because he had to feed his kids and provide. So that's where I came in at. You know, I want to support him, but at the same time, I have to say, hey, we got to take care of the budget and we have to take care of the finances. And sometimes there were difficult moments, especially when we were starting out, because that required conversations. Like, okay, you can't just do your art because we have to put food on the table. And these people they're not going to pay you anything. You might get part of the door, or you might get what they put in the jar or the cup. And I think for your dad, he's not doing it for the money anyway. And so that's difficult conversation to have with people who are asking you when you're an artist and you're doing it because you love the art. It's hard to say, well, I'll do it for X amount of dollars. You know, it's usually absolutely, because you're doing it for the love of it. And then two, there's a need for art and for artists in our world. You know, look what's happening right now with Black Lives. And with us as African-American people, just all the time. So that's a voice that has to be heard and that speaks to people and motivates people. So it made it could be frustrating, you know. And so I saw there were moments when he collaborated and worked with people and then they took off with all the, you know.
So
and
just
right, yeah,
management, or you might need to have that person that has that.
So I mean that can be difficult, but then so it's that financial piece, and then just as a spouse, as his partner in crime, that was difficult for me because I don't want to see anybody in my family being taken advantage of or not valued the way they should be, right? And so especially I see the value and I see the potential, or I'm hearing, wait a minute, they made X amount of dollars at the door. Why can't you and the other artists get X amount? But then also there were times when, you know, there was an issue with all of us in one of the collectives because the other people, they didn't understand the work and the expenses that went into putting it all together. We had to pay for getting to and from Southern California to Northern California, you know, that we're doing this work and not really getting any income and needing to use some of that funds to keep us up and going, you know, or just, you know, you know, so that's the unfortunate piece is that sometimes.
Not sometimes, because all these stories have been coming out for a few years now on how they've been treating these big time artists and how these artists are not getting their money. Right. And you know what I mean? And these are professionals. Look at Prince writing slave on his face and stuff. So this is something that, yeah, people have been abusing artists for a long time. And, you know, in the past decade, it's been coming out. But we're seeing it locally, in the corporations. So I think it's good you guys talked about that piece a little bit, kind of the inside on what happens to the family and what the family scene happen when you're out there performing and stuff and just doing your thing.
Well, also too, I think I saw moments for your dad that were difficult because, you know, like I said, you have to work every day. But what amazed me is even though this is how I know he's a poet and he loves poetry. Your dad go to work all day, commute 45 minutes to his job and 45 minutes back, come home, cook, shower, lay down for like 20 minutes and then get up, get dressed. And I'm like, where are you going? He's like, oh, I have to read at Luna's. What? You know, I'm invited to read.
Luna's in the house.
Area. You know, I was invited to read to the Bay Area and he's driving. You know, what's that, an hour and 45 minutes to San Francisco? So now he's driving to the Bay Area after driving to and from work, 45 minutes each way. You know, now you're driving to the Bay, you're reading and you're coming back. And I'm like, where are you? And he's like, oh, I'm on my way back now. I had to grab a bite to eat with Charles. And then I have to
top of the mark. Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, I can't be mad about that. You know, especially as a mom, I understand and recognize that I'm not doing my art because I'm too exhausted from just working and taking care of my kids. So then, you know, with female artists who are able to work and take care of their kids, and then they still find ways of doing their art as an extra thing on top of their job, I have nothing but respect for them. You know, when people say, why aren't you singing? Why aren't you dancing? I'm raising my kids and my family, trying to, you know, put some sweat equity in this house, and I'm supporting, you know, whatever their goals and their dreams are. So, you know, it's a huge thing. So I think for your dad, he has a little bit of luxury of having me and kids that support him. You know, there are pictures of you guys in his arms while he's reading. You know, and so he found a way. He's like, okay, I got the kids tonight. I'm taking her with me, and she's on the mic with me. You know, yeah.
Oh, he has the book. That's the book I have. Yeah.
Wow. Right.
There's Connie.
That's me.
And if you look, Shay's dress is like right there at the bottom.
I'm right
there is Shay's dress.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, there was times where just going to poetry readings was like my first introduction to art, or a place where other people are expressing art, and then my dad wanted us to express art too. Like, he would bring us on stage with our instruments, or have something to say, and everyone was just like, oh, you know, we're glad that, you know, Vincent's kids were here and came up, and it was just a good place to just see, like, okay, like, people just want to see you put something out there and see how you are and how you express. And it was a good environment.
You know, the other thing about, there's another type of support, you know, so I kind of talked on the financial piece, and then the piece at home, but then the other piece is community among artists. And your dad has been part of numerous artist communities, and they're different. You know, the community in the Bay Area, the community in Los Angeles, and the community in SAC, there are different types of communities. And some of those communities are extremely supportive and collaborative, and others are competitive in the sense that, you know, I'm trying to do my thing, and I don't really want you here competing with me. Or you're on the outside coming in, you have to kind of earn your way to us. And we might accept you in and be part of our collaborative. And I felt like the ones that just take you in for who you are and support you regardless, those are the ones where I see his relationships, they last forever. You know, just friends and just supporting the art. You know, it doesn't matter. It's just love from artist to artist. And I love that because, you know, they even became, I think we those artists, they met your dad, but then we started growing and knowing each other's significant others, spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, children, you know, and
you became family.
And you become a family.
We're family.
You know? Like,
yeah.
You know, and you may not see each other all the time, but you'll see that this artist is doing something, and you just want to support them. Rather it's, you know, a heart on Instagram, a shout out, or what have you. And just even those little things like, oh, you know, I saw or I heard about you performing here. It's a boost, and it helps, and it's motivation. You know, so I always encourage, and I love that, especially in the Sacramento community. I've always felt that there's just been nothing but love among the artists, and they support each other, and they come out and help each other. You know?
Yeah, and just to add to that, I did the Carol's Books open mic, and you guys were a part of that. I had you, Shay play her trombone, and Connie play her trumpet, and broke out the hat for people to put money in it, and they put money in it for you guys. But also did the garage sale art project. we did a performances in Sacramento, Davis, Oakland, right? And what I wanted to do was to take the poetry and the creative arts to the garage sale. And we did fundraisers for KILI Radio, which is a radio station for the Sioux Nation in South Dakota with my homeboy Francisco helping to organize that. We did a fundraiser for Helping Hands, which is my mom's nonprofit to help Haitian migrants in the Dominican Republic. So, you know, and I performed my poetry up and down the state. I taught at CISA, California State Summer School for the Arts, for several years. And so I've been doing this poetry thing. And what you do is like, oh, how do you get support? And you have to kind of create it, and you find like minds. Like minds will find you, because you hit that note, you hit that call, you blow the conch, right? It's like, this is what I'm doing. I'm creating, and I'm expressing that I'm here as a human being, and I'm alive, and this is what I love to do, right? And people will find you. All right, I have a poem here, right? Maybe 2 poems. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, let's
here we go. This is my latest poem here. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Is it clear enough?
You can make this screen.
Wow, you have it on the screen?
Hold on, I'm gonna make it bigger for you guys. Look, I'm trying to get my. I'm getting my.
I just made it bigger for me.
I'll make that. I'm getting my geek on, right? My tech geek on. Here we go. Make it plain.
Okay.
My latest poem. And the bird was flapping and flapping, but the wind was blowing and blowing. And so the bird made no way against the wind. It was held in that one spot, suspended in air, low in the sky, until the wind ceased and it flew away. And as it flew away, it made it plain. And in that clarity, I made a quest to go tell it on the mountain, but the city wouldn't let me through. So I searched through the maze of neon lights to find the rose that grew from concrete, yet I could not find it. For the sidewalk from which it sprang had been repaved. I searched for an exit while walking with a hoodie at the retreat at Twin Lakes in Sanford, Florida. I stood while selling cigarettes at 202 Bay Street in Tompkinsville, Staten Island, New York, while caged in Waller County, Texas, after being pulled over. Even while I was at home asleep, dreaming of an exit in Louisville, Kentucky, they found me. There I was again, buying some cigarettes at Cup Foods, and I walked out to East 38th Street and Chicago Avenue. Then I realized there was no exit and no mountain to tell it on, and that I would have to tell it right here, right now. At some point, America, you're gonna have to look at yourself in the mirror and not see some fairy tale about being the greatest country on God's green earth. If you really look, you won't only see Snow White, but goblins and witches, werewolves and Frankenstein, and they'll all be self-righteous too, along with Freddy Krueger, Chucky, and Jason. And once Freddy, Chucky, and Jason take their masks off, we'll see police officers and politicians. Alas, there I was trying to find the exit out this horror movie that some say I should be glad to be in, that being in it somehow validates my existence. But I don't need you to validate my existence. I just want to find my way out, because the only thing about horror movies is the black man dies first and the American Indian is dead before the movie starts.
Wow.
Can you just expand on your thought process, what you're talking about?
Okay.
It's powerful.
And what's going on right now?
I don't know if you guys, there's a reggae artist by the name of Burning Spear. And he asks us, do you remember the days of slavery? Do you remember the days of slavery? And when I was in my first couple years in college, I was big into reggae. You know, we loved Bob Marley and the Wailers, but we said, if we're gonna be into reggae, we gotta know more than just Bob Marley and the Wailers. So we you know, I bought culture. Me and my roommate, Boris, right, we got real into it. So he introduced me to stuff and I introduced him to stuff. Culture was one of the bands that was big for me. Another one was Burning Spear. Boris had Wailing Souls and Augustus Pablo. So anyway, but we've been in this horror movie, right? Since Columbus arrived. And that's what this poem is about. Us kind of trying to make a way for ourselves and trying to find an exit. How we find that exit. How we help our families thrive. But it kind of just deals with the moment. I put in the addresses there, right? At the, that's Trayvon Martin, retreat at Twin Lakes in Sanford, Florida. Cigarette, Eric Garner, 202 Bay Street. And when they choked him to death. So instead of I had poems where I used their names directly. This time I wanted to use the address, right? And we've been in a horror. I mean, we've been in a horror. If you read history, even though we don't have to stay in it, we could choose not to be in it. When you watch these murders and these crimes committed against Black men and women, right? It's a horror film. It's the worst kind of horror film. And that's why I wanted to write this piece. Yeah. It's a way for me to honor them.
Yeah.
Be in the moment with them.
Yeah.
All right.
Let
me hit you with 2 haiku. That might take some time to process that.
Yeah.
The river. But at its surface, everything quiet and still. Underneath, a storm. Here's one for the mission. Bounce, hoop with rhythm. Congueros at the park. Oye, como va.
Oh, like this.
Right.
And then the whole light skin, dark skin thing is coming up again. The colorism stuff is coming up again. Someone who's, been in that for, I guess, decades now, growing up with that in the last century. And then I don't know if you've been seeing it now in 2020, but I guess like just having, I guess I'm just trying to have like a more of a Black community like question right now. How do you think we can get the art to bring us more together, more of the Black family together, right, and less of the divide? And then, but also because we're dealing with this international aspect in our culture.
Right.
How do we get more of Pan-Africa and, just less of this division stuff going on? And should there be some type of division if you relate more to another culture or not, even though I'm seeing so many other cultures support us in the vision of freedom,
okay, look,
and not being killed,
Right.
All politics aside, all of the politics aside.
Yeah, we'll put the politics aside.
What do you think about that?
From my perspective,
should we just ignore it, or should the art call it out?
I don't know exactly how, but from my perspective, as Black people, we come in all shades and colors. And one of the key things that plantation owners did and throughout history that racism has done and the powers have be has done is to try to divide and conquer, right? You put man against woman, woman against man, right? And then this whole color thing, moving so many different colors within the family. So what do you do? Split the family up? Look, your mom is darker than me. I'm a certain color. You split us by color? I'm Team Calico. We come in all shades and colors with all of us together. I'm Team Calico, right? That's who I am. And I think that's who we all are.
That's the hashtag we're about to use.
Team Calico right there.
Team Calico.
We come in all shades and colors. We got to unify, We got so many divisions. I don't like to hear that stuff. I didn't grow up with it. That was one of the fortunate things with me. I never grew up that way. I never thought that way. So, and your mom doesn't think that way. You can't just sum somebody up just by the color that they are automatically in the Black community or outside the Black community. So you have to, that person, you have to know who they are. You have to witness who they are and know who they are. You can't just assume. And we need things that unify us, that don't divide us. There's so much, that's dysfunctional. Man against woman, woman against man, light against dark, dark against light. And then we have so many different variations in between. Gay against straight, straight against gay. No, the whole Black community has to stand together. Right? That tribe stands together. A strong tribe stands together. It can't be, another thing that we have, old against young, young against old. When you have all of these factors going on, how can you put forward a solid plan forward for the future as a group? That's my thing. It's like you can't have those you can't have generational squabbles. Those generations have to stand together, and that means men and women got to stand together. Men have to stand together. Women have to stand together, but not against each other. That's my Team Calico. That's the team I'm
like
on.
that.
I'm on Team
Calico.
Yeah.
Can you spell it for us, Calico? Break it down.
Calico. I think it's C-A-L. Wait, C-A-L-I-C-O. I think so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I'm not the bad, but I think that's how you spell it.
And
but you know what? You can make it cool, so it's not just a big thing. You can put a K. K-A-L,
okay.
Cali, C-I.
Yeah,
and then
keep it creative. For the people who are trying to
K-A-L-I-C-O, something like that.
K-A, okay.
You know what? You can make it jazzy. Go with the spelling you like.
Okay.
Calico, and so all the different colors within the African American community, from blue black to the albino.
Yeah.
Almost
Team
white,
Calico.
but not quite. Team Calico,
then,
girl.
For those people who are just having trouble with their immediate family, unifying their immediate family, because we have to start with ourselves. And you've been a father and you've had a family for a while. So what advice would you give to those people just in their immediate family? It doesn't seem like there's any unifying going on, especially in a Black family. Like, how would that go? Or also in an interracial family with everything going on right now. Like if there's a white parent in the household, or there's somebody who's not African American, or just not Caribbean African, or whatever African,
right?
Who's not in the household. Any advice for people going with their kids who don't know how to feel, maybe with a white parent, and then also maybe just even being the one in a relationship with a partner that's not a part of the community.
You mean how can they contribute?
How can they contribute? How can we get more unified? How can we, whatever insecurities and shaming people might be feeling right now because of stuff they can't control. You can't control who you love, and you can't control who your parents are.
Right.
So any advice for people going through that are having trouble coming together? And even I saw on Facebook, people are having a hard time right now with their Black family members and, being gay too.
Okay.
That's how Black families are getting, unfortunately, divided as well. So this is a lot, but just your take on that.
That's a lot to put on it right there. The first thing that I would say is, when we say, Black people or the Black family, we're not just talking about a color, right? We're talking about a culture. We're talking about a heritage that goes back to Africa, right? And then within all of that, it's the cultures that we've developed here in the United States, in the Caribbean, in South America. We're talking about all of that. And there's all kind of different blockades or obstacles that get in the way of people just contributing. If you're part of the family, you're part of the tribe, we need you. We need you to contribute in your own way. It has to be open that way, for the family, members and members of the people to be able to add what they can. What can you add to it that helps make the family stronger, that makes you stronger, and that's not divisive. We don't need all the divisive noise and chaos that helps to promote animosity, right? And what we got to know that when we say Black, it's more than just a color. The word just can't actually encompass the depth of the meaning of Africans who are here, who are descendants of Africans here in the United States, and in the Caribbean and in South America. So it's a way of how can I contribute? How can I help? Right? And then for people to think about that and think about, okay, we need to have the glue to bring people together instead of dividing people by generations, dividing people by genders, right? All of that, and by sexual orientation. When we say it's the whole group, and that's part of the dysfunction that's been created and that's been promoted. It's been promoted. American culture promotes that dysfunction. It buys the dysfunction, right? In so many different ways. Like, here's an example right here. The gay community has done a great job of saying, you know what? We don't want anybody using, quote unquote, the word faggot, right? We don't want, because that's a disrespectful term. Now, I'm at a basketball game, the pregame, and this is in the past when Sakani's playing basketball for Elk Grove, and the music we're the only African-American family there, and it's nigger. And it's just basically white people, we're the only African-American person there, and I tell them that, well, they have to turn that out, because I don't want to hear that. There's a place and time for certain things, but when you have so many people consuming those negative images of African Americans, I don't think it's healthy for them. I don't think that is helping Black Lives Matter. So I mean, there's so many things to discuss. It's so complicated, but we want healthy images of Black people, right? We want Black people to consume healthy images of themselves, right? Of ourselves, and for other people actually to consume those healthy images as well. You got really deep on me there.
That would be nice. More of us healing and healing the trauma that
there's a lot of
that we all have to feel. You feel what your grandma is going through, your mother's going through. You may not be able to put a word on it as a kid, but
right.
It's those things pop up again. Yeah. And then if you could just I know mulatto is not is a derogatory term, but for those kids out there who are going through that and might not know how to process that, any words for them?
Right. So, like, as there's other terms is mixed or fruit bowl, of all the different mixes that we have, and we have a lot of different mixes within the African American community. But also, it's like within the African American culture too. You have that double Dutch rope, right? You have echoes of Africa and African DNA, right? That we have, and then you have European culture. So our culture is already a mix of the two, and then trying to make sense out of all of that. right? And so it's a bit more direct if you have a parent who's of European ancestry and another parent who's of African ancestry. It's directly in the home, but that African American culture is a fusion then of those, primarily those two cultures as well.
So you're saying we have to come to an acceptance that we're already fused, and that doesn't make you any less. It doesn't make you any less African American because that's our history.
It's dealing with that term. Are you black enough? So when someone says, "Well, you're not black enough," you know, that's a difficult thing to process, right? Because then you had the thing where, well, the lighter you were and the whiter you were, right? There was benefits and advantages to that. And then in the 60s, that gets turned on its head. And what we have to do is just accept ourselves for who we are. And we have to accept ourselves for who we are and not have these predetermined images of what racism has influenced and made it very difficult for Black people to thrive, right? And when you had communities that were thriving like Black Wall Street in Tulsa, they just destroyed those things. And so what we have to do is, the history of man is very destructive, right? And what we have to do is try to rise from the ashes and try to build things. And we got to learn from the past. It doesn't mean that we stop trying to build a Black Wall Street. It means that we can have both integration and segregation and anything in between. And that, San Francisco would be great with a little Harlem, but the Fillmore was destroyed. If we had a little Harlem, just like we had Chinatown, which is a unique feature of San Francisco, that would just add to the richness of the city. That would add to the richness of LA if I could go to a little Harlem. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that our intellectuals who wanted to work for traditionally white corporations couldn't do that. We're not saying separate by the colors, but it would still be a great thing that Black neighborhoods could thrive. And it would be good for America.
Right. So I just wanted to know how you felt about everything that's going on with the Black Lives Matter, the protests, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, past police brutality and deaths.
COVID.
COVID.
2020.
Oh, this is just a crazy time. I feel like COVID-19 stopped everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel this is the moment where America has to look itself in the face, looking in the mirror and seeing our face. And we could see the country is divided. It's like a polar division between different perspectives and different sides of many different issues. Just on wearing the mask, you got one side, no, I don't have to wear a mask. The other side, no, we need to protect each other. One side against the police and the other side for the police. And it's almost childlike too. And it's ridiculous. Some of it is ridiculous. I think the people were right to be outraged by George Floyd's lynch. He got lynched by a police officer's knee. That's unacceptable. That is so unacceptable. And so the protesters were right. And at the same time, what we have to do is make sure those police in different communities are accountable to those communities, and people in the neighborhood are there and decide who gets fired and who stays on, because we still need police. If we say there isn't going to be any police in some of these neighborhoods, what's going to happen and who's going to get hurt? So we have to really think about how that's going to play out, because there's people that will take advantage of the fact that there isn't any police surveillance in their neighborhood. So all of that has to be taken into account. The neighborhoods have to be strengthened, and they have to be organized, and they need to be empowered. And those police officers who are doing right by the community need to be respected, and those who are not, they need to be fired. And if you commit a crime, doesn't matter who you are, whether you wear blue or not. That's it. You got to go to jail. Yeah, that's my kind of, in a nutshell, my thoughts on that. And I'm hoping that we get a vaccine soon, right? Yeah.
And then last question, how do we move forward, or how are you gonna move forward, I guess?
How am I gonna move forward? So you've had this, from what I've heard, you got some people who are paralyzed by what's happening, right? And they're not going anywhere. And then you got others who are doing too much, right? Won't wear their masks, and then the virus is spreading. And so we need a balance. When you get out there, it says wear your mask. That way you don't spread it, and you protect yourself at the same time. So we need that balance. We have to take in consideration our mental health. So I've been going on walks. That's what I like to do, and that helps to kind of refresh my mind and nurture my mind, and then that way I can proceed with my day. So I think that's how we're going to move forward, with a balance, using science, not going overboard and being too scared to leave our homes. That's not healthy. You can't stay in all day, day after day, week after week, month after month. So you have to have a schedule. You make yourself a schedule. You go on your walk, wash your dishes, and, do what you need to do for entertainment, all of that. So all of those like fundamental things, like knowing how to cook and how to take care of yourself, because it's not everybody that knows how to do that. Those are very important skills.
And you garden.
Those are very important skills.
Make your own food.
Make your own food, and you're going to save money that way. And it's healthier too for you.
Yeah. So my last question is, are you down to do another interview, maybe later in July or August? I feel like there's so many other artistic questions and stuff, and that you have so much more poems and haikus and stuff. So
Right.
Would you be down for a part 2?
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
I do. That sounds good. I do want to read this this piece. You said wanted me to read a piece for Sakani. So one of the things, so I read a piece about your mom, like when your mom was pregnant, when mom, LaNiecia, was pregnant with Ashe, she had a bullet. The belly was like a bullet. And so that's why I read that.
That's why y'all thought it was going to be a boy?
The belly was like a bullet. Well, your mom had that premonition, or she had that thought that you were going to be a boy, but that didn't come out.
I thought if the belly's a bullet, it's supposed to be a boy.
Or if it's up a certain way. I don't know all about all of those kind of tales. You have to ask your mom on that one. But people told her that, the way you're carrying it, or the way the stomach looks, it's going to be a boy. So this was about a time of putting you guys to sleep. It's called "Oh Desperate Lullaby." She has become candlelight, glistening in the catacombs of despair within my mental architecture. Sheathed by your bulging armor, her figure is hewed within the sacred depths of your chambers. Infant soldier, wailing cries, clanging ears with pandemonium, every day waging war against sleep and me. She has lips become ripe peaches with grenades of flavor. Shone through the prism of labor, tears of anguish swam into blues of gratitude. I can see sleep splashing in your eyes. She and he have become we sheathed in her. Birthing child, mother gladiator, in combat withstood all torture from which you sprang. At last, slumber is upon you. My arms are fluffy, tender pancakes, and you, fresh pineapple syrup, seeping into them with steam writhing upwards. Oh, sleep, swift feather pillow glide to the pregnancy of dreams. And that's, putting you guys to sleep, which is a really beautiful moment. It gets tough. You guys like, oh, you guys are crying. And then finding that moment where you guys actually fall asleep and your body just gives way into my shoulder, it's a real beautiful thing for both Vincent and LaNiecia.
Yeah, wow.
And many other parents as well. I think I'll leave it right there.
Yeah, no, that was
yeah. This was so healing in so many different ways. So thank you, Sakani, for putting this together and this idea. And thank you, Dad, for being willing to be vulnerable and open about your art and about your story and everything. Right. It was very, very replenishing for me. I hope for you guys too, and I hope for anybody watching.
Yeah, and one other thing to say. My dad and his co-workers at the shipyard, when they would end, like a session with each other, like the end of the day of their work, they would say maintain. I want to see if I want to close out with this piece called Maintain and see if I remember the poem. Maintain, my brother, the flowers are singing songs. Maintain, my sister, the weeds are playing drums. Maintain, the plants are making love. And the grass is laughing at you because the trees tell the joke of the strain in your brain that makes your face look ever so funny. Maintain, stay sane in any strain of confusion that attempts to pester, to disturb your brain in any way at any time for whatever reason. Maintain, stay sane.